Hello, good day everyone. Sir Kevin here again, and welcome to our new chapter about good governance and social responsibility. That's BAE 3, Basic Business Administration Education 3. So, today we'll be discussing about the corporate culture. So, before we start, I would like to discuss first what's the meaning of culture. So, kultura sa Tagalog. So according to Webster, no, culture is the customary beliefs, social forms, and material traits of a racial, religious, or social groups, or also the characteristics of feature of everyday existence, diversion, or a way of life shared by people in one place or time. Ibig sabihin, ito yung mga nakasanayan, kaugalian ng mga tao o mga grupo ng tao sa isang specific na lugar o isang pagkakataon. So, yun yung kultura. So, that means, ladies and gentlemen, that culture also differs. So, sa iba't ibang grupo ng tao. So, uh, a group of people might be ganito. Anyway, in your sociology and other subjects in social sciences, you have maybe discussed this topic about culture. But today we'll be discussing about the corporate culture per se. Okay? So, what are the impacts and implications of the corporate culture, especially in decision making? No, so how do they affect decision making? So, what is corporate culture first? No? So, uh, you consider how company, organization, or school differs from a similar one. So, paano nagkakaiba? No? The same iba yung parehong services ang ino-offer but they have different cultures. Iba't ibang barkadahan pero iba't ibang kultura. No? So, how do they differ? So, a shared pattern of beliefs, expectations, and meanings that influence and guide the thinking and behaviors of members of the organization. Mostly, ang kultura kasi is matagal bago ma, uh, ma hulma. Ibig sabihin, parang niluluto siya ng pagkatagal-tagal. No? So, a culture is deeply rooted. Ibig sabihin, matagal nyo nang ginagawa. Ito yung pinaniniwalaan ninyo. No? So, through time, that's why in other terms, in science, culture means yung pagpapatagal o pag-aalaga ng mga grupo, ng mga living organisms. That's culture. No? Culturing. No? Okay, so it's a shared pattern of beliefs, of expectations, and meanings that influence and guide the thinking and behavior of members of the organizations. So let's proceed. So culture is equivalent to the value, but also culture may be not equivalent to value. So let's talk about that. So a firm's culture can be its sustaining value, that which offers its direction and stability during challenging time. So if you remember the discussion about the strategic planning wherein it sets the mission and the direction of the organization. So mostly this is where the core values were rooted. Saan nanggaling yung core values? No, in MQC, ang direction and the main objectives to transform lives. So core values, no, that surrounds the transformation of lives includes that humility, respect, no, accountability, uh, and then the love of God and country. So it's the holistic idea of the transformation of lives. So that were inculcated through our activities programs, no, in MQC. So it may be a sustaining value of offers that's direction and stability, no, whenever when you make decisions. So it can also, however, also serve to constrain an organization to common ways of managing issues. No? That's how things have always been done here. So at sometimes decision making, no, at the environment doesn't is conflicted with the culture. So there are some issues with the prevailing climate kapag ba dumating ang ganitong sitwasyon, anong decision na gagawin mo? No? Okay. So, a culture is also present in the following elements. The culture of the manner of work. We as Filipinos, ang sabi nila as part of our culture, uh, dumadating tayo ng late. Pag sinabi mo alas 8, alas 9 darating. O kaya yung mamaya na, tatapusin ko din. So, paano ka nagtatrabaho is part of our culture. No? The organization approach to humor as well. No? What is humorous sa organization? Depende. No? Depende sa organization. So, sa grupo ng tao, may mga, halimbawa, sa mga barkadahan, merong mga barkada na yung ganito, biro pa sa kanila. And sa atin, sa ibang grupo, hindi. No? And look at Americans and how they do practical jokes. No? And also prank about their friends and family members. And sometimes, sa kanila, ganun yung humor. Pero pag tinanong mo yung ibang grupo ng tao, ay, that's actually ridiculous or stupid to say na baka may masaktan because of some of those pranks. So, depende sa approach to humor. Then, a culture is a method of problem solving because it's deeply rooted with the values, sasabi nga. No? Culture also dictates a competitive environment. No? So, paano ba? Again, the values are also playing parts here. Also, the incentives. No? How do companies see the culture among the group of people and how you reward people in your organizations? So, paano mo mamomotivate yung tao? That's part of the culture. No? Then also, hierarchical structure wherein there's also culture kung paano mag-promote and also how will you reach that and so on. So, culture plays part and has that element on those decision making. No? So, how do we link culture to ethics? So, an ethical culture would be one in which employees are empowered and expected to act in ethically responsible ways even when the law does not require it. Again, if you remember the meaning of ethics in our first discussion, no, it is doing the right thing even if doesn't require you. No? Kumbaga, it's a moral obligation, it's a moral way of deciding things, an accountable way of deciding things. So, when you do that, when you have that ethical culture, no, of course, magiging environment at magiging way of living ng mga tao sa organization, and that makes them responsible decision makers. No? So, there's what we call compliance and value-based culture. Ang tanong dyan ginagawa mo lang ba yan for compliance? Or is it for just values, or it is about values? No? Binalik mo ba yung pera na napulot mo dahil may nakakita o binalik mo dahil alam mong yun yung tama? Diba? So, that's the idea. No? Or nagsasubmit ka ba ng requirements because of compliance? Or nagsasubmit ka ng requirements kasi gusto mong matuto. It's part of learning na ma-assess kung gaano ka natuto. So, that's value-based. No? So, I hope that we also see that idea even in our online classes. So, in the 1990s, there was a distinction in types of corporate cultures. So, compliance-based culture are the traditional approaches. So, there are sets of rules, sets of standards, and you will follow that. That's a traditional approach. But the value-based approach or the integrity-based approach is even without these policies, even without these standards, you're able to act or behave on what is right. No? So these latter cultures are perceived as more flexible and far-sighted corporate environments wherein, of course, even without those lines, no, you are able to make those harmonious relationships. So, ibig sabihin, it's deeply rooted with the idea, the principles, and the beliefs of the people inside the organizations, no, that to make things good, make things better for them. No? So, the compliance culture is a compliance-based culture emphasizes on obedience of the rules as the primary responsibility of ethics. Look at this. Even in our modern day living, No? In the Philippines, pag sinabi mong bawal tumawid dito, no, at merong traffic enforcer, hindi yan tatawid. Hindi yan tatawid dun sa bawal na tawiran, no? Pero pag wala ng tao, kadalasan tumatawid sila, no? Ang kaibahan niya dun sa value basis, binawal 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 yan dahil pwede ka maaksidente, no? With that in mind, you know the value of safety, kaya hindi ka dadaan dyan. No? So, compliance-based culture emphasizes on the obedience of the rules as the primary responsibility of ethics. Actually, that's very basic. That's a traditional way or traditional approach. No? It's compliance and obedience. Compliance-based culture will empower legal and audit offices to mandate and monitor compliance with the law and with the internal policies. No? So, bawal yung ganyan, bawal makipagtsikan kapag oras ng trabaho. No? So, the compliance culture is, sumunod ka kasi, nga naman, may nagbabantay, sabi sa policy ganyan. Compared to the value-based or the value-based culture natin, parang I need to be productive because I am paid for it and I'm expected to do it. That's the value-based, and that's for my professional growth, that I can manage my time effectively and efficiently. No? So yeah, that's a value-based culture. A value-based culture is one of that reinforces a particular set of values rather than a particular set of rules. No? So ano ba yung pinaniniwalaan ng organization? The core value. So ganun din. No? So doon nagbabase yung marami sa mga decision ninyo. No? Certainly, these firms may have codes of conduct, but those codes of conduct are predicted on a statement of values and is presumed that codes includes mere examples of the values application. Yeah, no? Yung mga codes ninyo is galing din sa values. But in the absence of those codes, no, you're able to make the right call based on the values that you have in the organization and your personal values as well. No? Okay. So, what's the role of the leader in the corporate culture? So, if the goal of the corporate culture is to cultivate values, expectations, beliefs, and patterns of behaviors that best and most effectively support ethical decision making, it becomes a primary responsibility of corporate leaders to steward this effort. No, yung walking the talk. No? So, the role of the leader is to spearhead or to head, no, yung kung ano yung mga efforts na yon. So how can you implement those rules, no, or even the value-based culture in the organization kung yung mismong leader hindi ginagawa yan, no? The present day government, no, some issues pertaining is maraming mga nagsasabi na sabi ng marami, no, maraming nagnanakaw kasi yung nakikita nila nagnanakaw din yung mga leaders, no? I don't want to say state names, but in general ganun kasi na-perceive ng mga tao sa environment, no? Sa culture na kinakalakihan nila, no? So the role of the leader is to be of righteous and also righteous ways and also the behavior expectations, no? So if you want your organization na walang na-delay, even the boss should be on time. You as a leader should be on time. Pag sinabing alas 8, no, balikan natin yung Filipino culture na not all Filipinos comes late on time, no? In fact, sinasabi lang yung Filipino time sa mga nalilate na mga Filipino. But again, there are Filipinos na dumadating sa oras, no? So you think about it, that it's not the whole Filipinos, but just the idea of those Filipinos na okay lang na malate, no? So of course, if you want to have a group of people that are honest with you, of course you should be honest with them, no? That's the law of karma, no? That's the role of the leader in the corporate culture. It should reflect, and sabi ko nga, culture are established at nagsisimula yan dati pa, no? So kung gusto mo maka-establish ng value-based corporate culture, ngayon pa lang umpisahan mo na. It doesn't change in a matter of time, no? It changed through time. Na nakikita nila consistency at nagiging way of life na nila. So that is the main role of the leader. Ma-transform mo yung organization to be uh, with that corporate culture. No? So, so leadership is setting the cultural tone. I just want to quote the meaning of leadership. Ang sabi ng ibang quotation, leadership is action, not position. That's actually true. No? But mas papalalimin natin that um, leadership is also an influence process. Now, wherein you are able to influence the group of people to do the same thing with you. No? Of course, kung ikaw leader, ganito yung ginagawa mo, pamamarisan kanila dyan. And even in the family, if you have the parents as your leader or the head of the families as your leaders, eventually minsan meron ka mga kultura o meron ka mga beliefs na namamana o kinakalakihan sa kanila at ginagawa mo pa rin hanggang ngayon. No? The same thing with the organization. Leaders are those cultural tone setters. No? Ibig sabihin, you should influence them, of course, in an ethical and accountable way. No? Ibig sabihin, dun ka sa tama na influensyan mo sila. No? So, beyond personal behavior, leadership sets the tone through other mechanisms such as the dedication of resources. And ethical business leaders not only talk about ethics and act ethically on a personal level, but they also allocate corporate resources to support and promote those ethical behaviors. So, nasa mga actions nila kung paano nagre-reflect yan. And, uh, what is the difference between an effective leader and an ethical leader? So, being perceived as a leader plays an important role in a leader's ability to create and transform an ethical corporate culture. But what do you mean by an ethical leader? A good leader is simply anyone who does well what leaders do. That's being a good leader. No? But good leaders are effective at getting followers to their common destination. So that what I mentioned earlier, to motivate or influence others. So that's actually the goal of a leader. But you'll be called as effective leader. But the challenge is you should be an effective and an ethical leader. No? So paano nangyayari 'yon? Of course, you influence them in the good way. No? So paano nagkakaiba yun? The ethical leader making courageous decision in tough situations represents a way in which ethical leaders get noticed. No? Uh, you are fair, just, accountable, and responsible in your decision making. No? Ethical leaders are courageous enough to say no to conduct that would be inconsistent with their values. No? Pag dumating yung pagkakataon, kahit kaibigan mo yan or maraming maapektuhan, dun siya sa values niya, should be fair, no? Should be accountable, no? Ethical leaders are courageous enough to say no to conduct that would be inconsistent with their values. No? So, kung ikaw alam mo na hindi ka nag-cheat, no? Darating yung araw na mapipilitan ka magpumili, you'll be consistent with that decision, no? Regardless kung ikakapahamak mo yan o hindi. Ethical decision maker ka. No? And ethical leaders create a corporate culture in which employees are empowered and expected to make ethically responsible decisions. So you influence them to do the same. No? Uh, in fact, that's the best thing to do and the least thing to do as a leader. No? I've asked this with my former student. It's a general question, how to become a good citizen. But one student answered me, one of my students answered me, and I remember this in my first year of teaching. My question is how to be a good citizen. And one courageous and brave student raised his hand. At hindi ko pa makalimutan kung ano sinabi niya. Sabi niya, to be a good citizen is to be to follow the rules and regulations. So you're good, you are effective, no? But what struck me is the next statement that he mentioned. Sabi niya hindi pa siya tapos. But you can be a better citizen if you want. Sabi niya. To be a better citizen, you follow the rules and follow the law, no? And you know the law and you follow the law. The first one pala, to be a good citizen is you know the law. You know the law. To be a better citizen, you know the law and to obey the law. And the last one is, sabi niya, in fact, you can be the best citizen that you can be, sabi niya. To be the best citizen you can be is you know the law, you obey the law, and you inspire others to do the same. That is an effective and an ethical leader. No? So, hindi lang siya nagtatapos dun sa ginagawa mo, but you inspire others to do the same. That's part of leadership. And in fact, in management, you'll be an effective manager, effective and an ethical manager. So effective leaders might be able to achieve their goals through threats, intimidation, harassments, and coercion. One can also lead using more attractive means such as persuasion, motivation, and others. No? So you'll be effective. Yung role mo, no, bilang leader is to influence them. No? So might be able to achieve their goals through threats, intimidation. You just let them do what is owed. No? Effective ka na nun eh. You're able to do them. But being ethical as well is doing what is should be done and inspiring them to do the same. Okay, that's it for our lesson for today, and I hope to see you until the next one. I hope that you enjoyed and learned with this discussion.